So it is time to break down one of the biggest games of the entire season for both the Packers and the Chicago Bears. And this game is different than in years past just because we have not seen the Bears playing this level of football for a very long time. And so you do have to give the Bears a lot of credit as a Packers fan. I wish it wasn't the case. Now, I do think it makes things more entertaining when the Bears are really good. And I think with Ben Johnson going to Chicago, I thought things would improve, just not this quickly. So I'm slightly concerned because you never want to see one of your rivals start to get a lot better, but that's just the reality of what's going on right here. But the Packers have a chance to slow down this Bears hype train by beating them on Sunday. And the Packers and Bears do play 2 times in the next 3 weeks. And so whoever wins this game on Sunday, it's not the end of this battle for the year. There's still one more game. And the rest of these 5 games for both teams they're all going to be important as this NFC race continues. And a ton of teams are right next to each other. So I do think it's much more entertaining when both the Packers and Bears are sitting where they are, and it's going to be a good one. So I want to preview this game, give my preview, go over some things I think we need to look at in this game, biggest areas to watch, and then I'll also give my score prediction at the end. And feel free, either right now or later on in the video, feel free to comment your score prediction in the comment section down below. And so the Packers played a great game last week. That was a dominant game on Thanksgiving. It's always nice, when you have Thanksgiving, eating all the food, things are going well. When you lose, your team loses on that day. It's just, the Thanksgiving isn't quite as great as it could have been. Thankfully, the Packers beat the Lions, and so we didn't have to experience that this year. And now coming in, playing Chicago in Green Bay, this is going to be a good test for this Packers team. Looking at this Bears team, if you watched the game against the Eagles on Friday, the Black Friday game, we saw the strength of this Bears team offensively, which has been their running game for, pretty much this whole season. Looking at some stats, currently they're second when it comes to rush yards per game at 153.9. Tied for 5th in rush yards per play at 4.9. And this is all working at a high level because they have one of the better offensive lines in the entire NFL. Against that Eagles team, the holes they were opening up they were massive. And I was even thinking, if Josh Jacobs had those type of holes, we'd see some much better numbers. The Packers offensive line run blocking has been nowhere near as effective as the Bears have this season. And currently, according to ESPN, the Bears are number 1 in ESPN's pass block win rate, and they are number 5 in ESPN's run block win rate. So very good. They're also 3rd in rush yards before contact per carry. And so that just sort of shows just this offensive line is making way for these running backs at one of the best rates, highest rates in the entire NFL. And last week against the Eagles, they finished with 281 rushing yards. That is, teams rarely get to anywhere near that level in one game. And both running backs, both Swift and Monangai, went over 100 yards. So a dominant day by the Bears, and that's been a consistent theme all season. Thankfully, the Packers' run defense is very good. Currently tied for the 7th best run defense in the NFL, tied for 5th in rush yards allowed per play. But this is a very good Bears unit. If we do look at this Packers run stopping unit, they had a game against the Panthers where Rico Dowdle just sort of went off. But if we look against even some really good rushing teams, last week, for example, against the Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs was coming off a 219-yard rushing game, and the Packers held him to 68 yards and 3.4 yards per carry. And so it's not like this Packers run defense has just played really good against struggling teams or bad running teams. They've played really good against even some of the best, rushing attacks in the NFL. And so I don't think it's a given that the Bears are going to be able to run all over this Packers unit. And honestly, I would say it's a strength of both teams, and that's where I think things get really interesting because you have two strengths. The Bears rushing attack is very good. The Packers D-line has been really good against the run. And so it'll be a battle to see who can come out on top in this one. Now, one big factor to watch in this game is Devonte Wyatt's absence. Devonte Wyatt, unfortunately, goes down with an ankle injury. He has been especially effective against the pass, still good against the run. Currently, according to PFF, Wyatt has the 3rd most run stops on the Packers defensive line behind Rashawn Gary and Colby Wooden. Wooden does lead the Packers with 16 run stops. He's been really, really good against the run. We do have 2 examples this season of Devonte Wyatt not playing. So I went back to see how the Packers' run defense did without Devonte Wyatt. And these were 2 games against offenses that have not been playing great. The Bengals, the Packers held them to 3.4 yards a carry without Devonte Wyatt. And they played the Cardinals and held them to 3.4 yards per carry without Devonte Wyatt. So they were still good against the run in those games. Now, those rushing teams have not been that great. And so that's not to say that we're going to see the same thing with Devonte Wyatt out, because the Bears are much better than both of those teams. But I do think that Colby Wooden has been very good against the run. He'll need to come up even, come up in big moments, even more so with Devonte Wyatt out. And it will come down to some of the other backups here. Guys like Warren Brinson, who's gotten more snaps. Guys like Carl Brooks, who has dealt with some injuries. Hopefully he can come in and be effective against the run, say with Nazir Stackhouse. And so we are going to see how the Packers adapt to losing Devonte Wyatt, which is very unfortunate. And the Bears running offense has really allowed Caleb Williams to, he hasn't had to really produce at a super high level when it comes to just his passing numbers. Now, he's been really good at not turning the ball over very much. And when you have an offense running the ball like this, you have a defense forcing a ton of turnovers. Sometimes that's enough to just, play mostly clean football. A lot of times you may win those games. And Ben Johnson has really, ramped up the play action offense here since coming to Chicago. Currently, the Bears have the 3rd highest play action percentage in the NFL, according to NFL Pro. So far this season, Caleb Williams, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 22nd in passer rating. He's currently 14th in EPA, expected points added per dropback. He hasn't been very good when it comes to his accuracy. Dead last, according to NFL Pro, among qualified quarterbacks. 33rd in completion percentage over expected. And so this Bears passing attack has not been that good. And Ben Johnson even said this after this past game in an article from The Athletic by Dan Wiederer. We have a quote here from Ben Johnson who said, "We're winning in spite of our passing game, not because of it. And none of us are pleased with that right now." And so while Caleb Williams has done enough to allow this Bears team to win 9 games, he hasn't been playing at a super high level, I would say. Now, he has a lot of big moments, you can see his ability to make plays that a lot of guys can't make on the run, things like that. So it's not to say he's a bad quarterback. He just hasn't been, I would say, an elite type quarterback. He's been good enough for what the Bears have done running the ball. And because this offensive line has been so good, Caleb Williams has been able to, do enough for this Bears team to win a lot of games. And I think just like most games for this Packers defense, it comes down to, can you stop this Packers defensive line? Because Micah Parsons is dominant. We saw him come through in a big way last game as well, getting multiple sacks. And now he is the first player in NFL history with 5 seasons of 12-plus sacks since they started, putting out sacks back in like the early 1980s. I saw that stat. Maybe it was CBS earlier this week or last week. So the Packers defensive line is incredible. And even with Devonte Wyatt out, just because Micah Parsons has been as dominant as he's been, that just gives the Packers an advantage in lots of different ways. And so the big thing to watch here is, can this Packers team shut down this Bears rushing attack? Because if they can just, keep them in check, have an average day, I do think the Packers can win this game. The one way that this gets out of hand is if they're able to do what they did against the Eagles. Because if you allow 200-plus rushing yards, those games are tough to win. So hopefully the Packers can find a way there. And now if we move to the other side of the ball, the Packers last week offensively, it was a dominant performance, putting up 31 points against the Lions last week. And there had been a stretch of games where this Packers offense, just a lot of questions coming up. Can they really be a dominant offense when you're playing another good offense? Can they put up enough points to win these games? In this past game, they answered the question, at least in that game specifically, and put up 31 points. Matt LaFleur was very aggressive, knowing that they would have to play versus an aggressive Detroit Lions team. And he even talked about it in his post-game press conference about the mindset the Packers had coming into this game. A much more aggressive mindset than I'd say they typically played with. And now looking at this Bears defense, overall, just their overall numbers, they haven't been great when it comes to points allowed, currently 25th in the NFL. and then they're 27th in yards allowed. They're third when it comes to most yards, third most yards allowed per play. And so the Packers can definitely move the ball on this Bears team. The question really becomes, are the Bears going to be able to force turnovers as they have all season? They've been the best team in the entire NFL when it comes to takeaways per game. Currently first in the NFL, averaging 2.2 takeaways per game. And so looking at what Matt LaFleur did last week, looking at the way that the Packers played, very aggressive. The Lions were playing a lot of man. The Packers were really airing it out. Matt LaFleur was giving Jordan Love a lot of opportunities to throw the ball, even on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, short yardage situations where it feels like most of the season in those situations, we've seen the Packers run the ball, but LaFleur put the ball in Jordan Love's hands, which I love to see because with Jordan Love being, the $55 million quarterback, guy with 19 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, I think that the Packers, the way they win these games, the way that they're going to go on a deep playoff run is by allowing Jordan Love to take you there. And so I was happy to see that last week. Now, thinking about this game, I do wonder if Matt LaFleur is looking at this situation. He's looking at this Bears defense that really lives off of forcing a lot of turnovers. I almost wonder if we're going to see a more conservative approach in this game, more of a safe game plan where LaFleur is just really focused on not turning the ball over, just because, that's been the way that the Bears have won a lot of these games is forcing turnovers. And I get that sometimes you do have, you have to change your approach depending on who you're playing, depending on the type of defense you're playing. I honestly just think, looking at the way, just sort of the mindset the Packers came in with last week, when it came to recognizing that you're playing a offense where you're going to have to put up a lot of points. And so you could just tell the urgency the Packers had offensively. You could tell that LaFleur knew they had to put up a lot of points because the Lions are an aggressive team. Now, I honestly would just like to see the Packers come in every week with that mindset. And I get trying to be safe, trying to, if you think it's going to be a close game and you just don't want to turn the ball over, you may play it more safe to try to, not cause an error that could really lose you the game. But I think just with how talented Jordan Love is, with how good even these receivers were this past week, I think that you have to enter every game with a similar mindset, because I think that if you do that, you're going to get up to, leads much quicker, which allows your defensive line to really key in on the quarterback, teams having to abandon the run. I just don't think the Packers should be a conservative type team. Now, of course, depending on the game situation, that can shift. I just liked the mindset the Packers went in with last week. And you can just hear it from Matt LaFleur, from Jordan Love. There was clearly a shift in what they were trying to do because of who they were playing offensively. And I just think that you have the talent, you have the team to go into a game like this, being a team where whoever you're playing, I think you should go in saying, we're going to try to score 30 points and not be so afraid of turnovers. Now, that's not to say you don't tell Jordan Love, hey, just throw it up. Of course not. But I just think that the Packers should go in, not like, oh no, we can't turn the ball over. We can't turn the ball over. Just go in, play like you did last week, and really just continue to allow Jordan Love to be the reason that you win these games. I think that should be, sort of how the Packers operate going forward. And one of the reasons is because if you look at the Packers' passing attack versus rushing attack, they've just been much more effective passing the ball. And so I think that you should lean into your strength, and I think that the Packers' strength is their passing attack. Now, they can still run the ball effectively at times. It's been inconsistent, but you have Josh Jacobs. You're still going to run the ball. That's not to say, you don't run the ball with Josh Jacobs. I just don't think you need to do it at such a high rate. And I think that in these big moments like we saw against the Lions, put it in Jordan Love's hands. Here's some interesting stats here. Here's some stats when it comes to EPA per play, expected points added stat. The Packers are number 1 in EPA per pass in the entire NFL. So basically the most effective passing team on a per play basis. And they're currently 15th in EPA per rush, so pretty much average when it comes to their rushing attack. I am curious to see what Matt LaFleur does in this one. Are we going to see a really conservative game plan because he's really focused on not turning the ball over? That could be the case. Could the Packers still win that way? Yes. I just think that when you have the firepower offensively, just go all out. Why not? We saw it work last game. Jordan Love has been incredible. I say put the ball in Jordan Love's hands once again and just sort of continue to show your trust in what Jordan Love could do. Now, looking at this O-line versus D-line matchup, the Bears haven't been that good against, or at least getting pressure on the quarterback. Currently 25th in sacks, 30th in pass rush win rate. So that's another reason, pass the ball, because you got a better offensive line when it comes to pass blocking versus run blocking. The Bears haven't been that great when it comes to getting to the quarterback. Now, they also haven't been great against the run. So, you could be able to run against this team as well. which I expect the Packers to. Even last week, the Packers ran the ball pretty effectively. As a team, 4.2 yards a carry. Josh Jacobs ran it for 4.9 yards a carry. And so you should be able to run against this team as well. I just think Jordan Love, the way he's playing, especially, with it being November, December, Toyota-thon, allow Jordan Love to take you there, to beat this Bears team. I really think the Packers could get to 30 points in this game. It comes down to, playing clean football and doing similar things to what you did last week. So now my score prediction for this game. I do think with the game being at Lambeau Field, definitely in favor of the Packers. I do think this will be a close game, but I'm going to say the Packers beat the Bears in this one. Packers 27, Bears 20. Feel free to comment your score prediction in the comment section down below. I'll be out with Packers news updates throughout the week. I typically make videos every single day or every single weekday, and then I always make a video after the game, so stay tuned for that. Feel free to turn on post notifications so you don't miss any Packers news, any reactions for anything that happens with this Packers team. But thank you guys for watching, as always. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great time watching the game, and I will see you guys next time.